The aim of this tutorial is to show you how to rewrite a quadratic in this form, and this is called completing the square. Now this is a very complicated type of completing the square, so we'd not recommend using this as your first example on how to do it. But it's this shows you a more complicated way, not more complicated, a more complicated question in completing the square. So first of all, when you complete the square, you've got to look for a quadratic that has just got an x squared there, and we've got a 2 in front of that, so that means we must factorize the whole quadratic expression by 2. Okay, so you could write that if you wanted to as 37 divided by 2, which will give you 18.5, but I prefer to write it as a fraction. The next thing you have to do is you have to get this squared part. So let's just leave that to this now. Let's just look at the squared part. So we've got, we multiply a bracket like this, we do x squared. Now we want to try and get 3x here, and the best way of doing that is you divide this coefficient, this number here, by 2. Okay, so for example, this you could write again as 1.5 if you wanted to. So if that was written as 1.5, it'd be 1.5 times x doubled would give you the 3x. Okay, or 3 over 2 times x is 3x over 2, doubled is 3x. Now the only problem is when we multiply this bracket out here, we get our x squared, we also get our 3x, but we also get 3 over 2 squared, which will give you 9 over 4. Now that's an extra term, we don't want that, so we're going to take that away outside the bracket. So when you multiply this bit out, we end up with the 3x squared plus the 3x. We also have this extra 9 over 4, but we take it away, so that means all we get left is just that 3x, the x squared plus the 3x. And then you've still got the 37 over 2 as well. And now, just remember, we've got this 2 outside here, so all of this is over 2. Sorry, all of that's been multiplied by 2. Okay, so we've got to try and tidy this up a little bit because it's a little bit of a mess here. First of all, we can add these two fractions together. So I'm going to leave that 2 outside this now. Now, we cannot add these fractions together because the denominators are not the same, so let's just quickly make those denominators the same. So I've multiplied this by 2 to make the denominators both be 4. Now you've got minus 9 plus 74, that's going to give you 65. So we have 2 brackets x plus 3 over 2 squared plus 65 over 4. Okay, now just to finish this off, now you multiply everything by the 2, so we multiply this bracket here by 2, and we also multiply this fraction by 2. So we're going to end up with 2 brackets x plus 3 over 2 squared, and then when you multiply this by 2, we end up with 65 over 2. And the reason for that, I mean, I did that quite quickly there, but what I did is I did 2 times 65. Now instead of working out the answer, I just divided the 4 by 2 and the 2 by 2. So I had 65 over 4, I multiplied it by 2, so I divided that by 2, divided that by 2, and that's how I ended up with 65 over 2. So that there is it written out in the completing the square format, and one of the reasons why this is so useful is from here you can easily work out what the turning point is. The turning point of this quadratic is when this part becomes 0, and the only time that part becomes 0 is when x is minus 3 over 2. And when this part is 0, all of this bit here is 0, which means the y value, or the y value for the turning point, is going to be 65 over 2. So it's a very useful way of working out the turning point. You can't see anything outside of that. So I'll just say that again. It was this part is going to be 0 to get the turning point, and the only time this is 0 is when it's minus 3 over 2, because minus 3 over 2 plus 3 over 2 is 0. And when this is all 0, this whole part here is 0, which means that the y coordinate for the turning point is going to be 65 over 2. And that's how you complete a square. Hope that helped.